Test. Test. Test.
Oh, okay. I know. Test. Test. You. Oh, there I go. Good. Excuse me. Hello, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming out. We're going to get started here. All right. I know there's a couple things going on tonight, so if you're here for the React Denver meetup, this is the room. The other thing, oh, is it interviewing? Something like that. That is not here. But you're welcome to stay. So, yeah, just to cover some things, I guess we're starting out with some logistics. If I can, oops, sorry, Kevin. All right. Normally, we do have pizza and drinks, and we are deeply sorry that we cannot provide that for you tonight due to a lack of sponsorship for the night. And I don't know if Sam had more words to elaborate on that. I don't know what else to say. We're always looking for more sponsors. So but yeah, feel free to visit us on our open collective. We take one-time donations, talk to your bosses, see if they're interested in getting involved in the community at all. And yeah, I feel like this is a great place to start, and hopefully we won't run into this issue too many other times in the future. So yeah, again, sorry about that, everybody. Which leads to this. But we do want to thank Turing for letting us host this meetup in their space, which is nice, very accommodating. Also, Salt Lending for covering the meetup fees as well. And then a huge thanks to our Open Collective supporters. We're getting a lot more of them on there, and I'm trying to read the names here. So who do we got? We have Rahim, Rahman. Did I pronounce your name right? Yes, okay. Who is also speaking tonight as well, so big thanks to you. Will Klein, one of our co-organizers, can't be here tonight. Kevin, also speaking tonight. Jeff Baumgard, I believe, right here. A true regular, thank you. David Adams, also another co-organizer. John McCormick, I don't think I've met you, John. If you're here, thank you. Myself, put in some cash. Christopher Bolin in the back, thank you. And Sheila Brennan, I don't know who, thank you, Sheila. Sam, right up here, front and center, and Ben Russert. So thank you all very much for contributing to the Open Collective and helping us keep this meetup running. Oh, yeah.
So just an addendum on what Gabby was saying. The Open Collective is somewhat confusing, and I had a number of people ask me about this today as to, we see on your Open Collective that you guys have funds available on your balance here on the page, and I just kind of wanted to explain real quick. So the balance is kind of what's been carried over even from the previous month. So if you want to actually go to the next slide, it says we have like 400, I believe it was 70 something on there. In all reality, we're still waiting to reimburse Gabby from last month's food expenses. So for whatever reason, it doesn't take that into account. It is sort of deceiving, and we are in touch with Open Collective to try to get them to adjust that. And I know they do take open source contributions as well. If anybody's interested in contributing there, I think actually we're able to secure some discounts for the meetup too. If somebody wants to do that in our name, we would love to talk to you more about that. But yeah, I think they're going to work on that. It's just kind of a quirk of the UI for the time being, but wanted to explain that for the most part, this does a great job about keeping our expenses transparent and our donations transparent. If you have any questions, feel free to talk to us, but I just didn't want you to think that we were not providing food and beverages here and like we were just storing money on the side. That's definitely not the case. So anyway, thanks for bearing with me.
All right, thanks, Sam. Let's see. Next up is who is hiring. So I'd like to call people up because we've got quite a few positions up here. So I guess first is Kristen, I think, if you'd be willing to chat. Oh, hey. Uh-huh. Oh, come here in the camera. You don't have to look directly in the camera, but yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kristen. I'm CEO and co-founder of a company called Goodbye Gear. We're a local Denver-based startup. We're venture-backed. If this is live, but it's not public, but we will be announcing a large seed round next week. And one of the great things about that is that we're hiring, and the big position we're hiring for is a developer. We're looking for a full-stack developer, and it's to basically take the lead for us and hopefully grow with the company. Everything is built in React and Node.js, and then we have an iOS app that's React Native. So if you're interested and want to learn more about our company and the position, I'd love to chat with you. Thanks.
Thank you very much. If I could get the other three to line up here. I'm not sure who posted the engaged in one, but I also see a Peter, and I think this is Christopher too. Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Nate Hershey. I work at Engaged In. We're a small startup. We're 100% remote. Our engineering team is located here in Denver. What we're trying to do is help people form healthy habits using research that's based on neuroscientists. So we have a small engineering team and then a bunch of scientists that we work with. Sorry. We have an engineering team and then a bunch of scientists that we work with who call all sorts of research materials and figure out the best way for us to affect change in people. And then we present that to them in the context of this meetup through mobile apps. So we're looking for someone who can do React Native for our front end and our mobile apps, and we have Go on the back end. So if you do both, great. We're really interested in someone who can do React Native for now, though. Thanks. Let me know if you are interested. I'll be here afterward.
Hi, I'm here representing Formidable. My name is Chris, or if you're my mother, you can say Christopher. But I guess I use a social login for Open Collective. Formidable is a consultancy. We do React, Node, AWS, cloud work like that. So if you are identifying as a senior React engineer or senior Node engineer, we also have a position open right now for a future senior engineer. So if you're newer in your career, you can apply to that. You can hit me up afterwards. I will put my name on here. Cheers.
Oh, we had one more. Oh, there you are. Sorry.
Chris or Christopher. All right. Hi. My name is Peter. I work for Broadcom, formerly known as CA Technologies, formerly known as Rally Software. We are not a startup. Broadcom is a very large company. We are looking for 3 positions, actually: a software engineer, senior software engineer, and a senior UX designer. Question? Did anybody hear what I said previously? Gotcha. Okay. Okay. I'll start over. I'm Peter. I work for Broadcom, formerly known as CA Technologies, formerly known as Rally Software. We are looking for 3 positions: a software engineer, a senior software engineer, and a senior UX designer. If you have any questions or would like to talk about any of those positions, feel free to reach out to me. So we have a number of different technologies. Kind of the main ones are going to be React on the front end and then Java on the back end. But it depends on what aspect of our many systems you're trying to do. So we've got a number of different roles. So if you're comfortable just with general software engineering practices, we can work with you on the exact technologies. All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much, everyone. All right, and I don't believe we have anything in terms of announcements. So I believe we are ready to get started with Kevin giving us some quick tips on optimizing your bundles.
Can everybody hear me? No, that's not loud at all. Hang on. Is that better? How's that? Little louder? About there? Okay. Chris, stop yelling. I'm not yelling, you're yelling. Just quick, sorry, we've got an issue with the AC. I tried that, Sam, it didn't do anything. Good idea, though. The AC is usually off, and it's not, so if you're having a hard time hearing, feel free to move a little bit closer up to the front, which should help a little. Yeah, so my name's Kevin McKernan, senior front engineer at AirDNA, which is a local data startup. We work in the vacation rental space with Airbnb and HomeAway kind of statistics for people that have vacation properties that they rent out. Tonight, my talk is just pretty briefly. I left quite a bit of time for questions because I'm sure there will be. It's just kind of some quick kind of introduction to looking at the actual output of your React app once it's compiled. This is interesting. It does include some pretty pictures, so we'll get there in a minute. Yeah, so we spend a lot of time thinking about. I'm getting there. Thinking about what we're doing when we're building our apps, getting things to work. But one of the things with the Webpack and React scripts and all that is you hit build, your app compiles, and it works. And you don't really necessarily need to do anything else to get it to work. It's there. Once your app starts to grow, you can run into some issues, and they're mainly performance as in load time, not as much like, oh, my app is so laggy when I'm using it. So quick show of hands, who's ever made performance improvements to their React app? All right, so keep your hands up. So put your hand down if that was because you noticed it was slow. Okay, we're losing some. And finally, quick show of hands, anybody who made performance improvements to your app after hearing reports from clients that it was slow, or users or customers? Okay, so just a couple. This is always one of those things that comes up on web performance is we are all lucky to have fast laptops that we build things on gigabit fiber, sitting hardwired. And depending on the speed of your internet, if you've got a 5 meg bundle that needs to download at the beginning of your app, and you're trying to do it on 3G on your way home on the light rail, and it takes like 30 seconds for an app to load, that's not a great experience for your user. So I'm going to show some kind of before and after kind of stats, and then also how you can do this on your own repos. As I get connected to the TV, one sec. All right. So the main tool I'm gonna kind of be talking about is called Webpack Bundle Analyzer. So this is a package that's on NPM, and it just uses the output of Webpack if you run it with stats, which I'll show you. There's an example with React scripts, and then you can come in here if you have a custom Webpack set up to hook up. But so what this does is it gives you this really pretty kind of chart of everything in your app. And this is relative to its size within a file. So first off, so all I did as a change to what, let me back up a little bit. This is a project I started with Create React App. So you get your usual start script, you get your build script. Then I added another script here that's build with stats, and all it does is passes this -- stats flag onto the end. And this outputs a file when it builds that then Bundle Analyzer can use to kind of visualize all your dependencies. So this next one down here, the analyze script I have here, runs Webpack Bundle Analyzer. It points it at the stats file. And then this runs it in server mode, which opens it up in a browser. You can also output it to a static file, which I've got a couple of. I'll show you in a minute. Yep, so what this does is it gives you, I can't see my tab titles, hang on. So it gives you, here we go, this is the one I was looking for. So it gives you this kind of layout of all the different files in your app and you can see there's different numbers in here. So what happens when you compile an app with Webpack, and this is very dependent on configuration, so kind of disclaimer here, your app might not do this by default, but if you're using React scripts, it will. It goes through and it kind of chunks things out based on code splitting in your app, which I'll show you in an app in a sec. And it does that so that you're loading multiple script files instead of one giant one. And this is particularly, as your app gets larger, you might have functionality in one part of your app that depends on a library that's kind of large, but you don't use that library anywhere else in your app. And so if your code splitting is set up well, that dependency can actually only get included once you load that page. So something like D3 maybe, bunch of other different examples. So this app I have code split by routes. So in my router, I have, and so I used React Lazy for this. You can also use React Loadable. So what's happening here is these imports don't get called until your app actually goes to render these components. So if I go down here into the router, you'll see that I just have my regular components with their paths. Yeah, so these lazy imports are what's creating these other chunks here. And so I can actually, you can zoom in on this. This is super cool. And there's actually a way to name them as well, which I didn't do. So you can see that there's just different dependencies of the different chunks. So this is a fairly small app. This isn't super interesting. But what is kind of cool to see is, so this is what it looks like if I take all those lazy imports out. I only have two files. I have main and I have this chunk 2. And so main pretty much has all of my app code and chunk 2 has all of my vendors. So Create React App started doing this in version 2. Before that, if you didn't have any code splitting, it would just kick out one main file. And so this is useful because your main file should be as small as it can be, because that's the first thing that gets loaded when you come to a page. You open up the page, the main.js starts downloading, and then once that downloads, then everything else gets pulled in. And so that's your first like kind of blocking request. And so the smaller you can get that, the better, and then more things will start loading in your page as well. And I don't know how much kind of web performance stuff anybody's done, but the switch from HTTP 1 to 2 meant that it was better to make more smaller requests than one larger request, which was kind of turning performance optimizing things on its head from what it used to be. So that's the advantage here. So some things to watch out for. You can see in here, so this is the node modules for the app. And if you hover over, and I know nobody can read it, but the little tooltip there has the size, the parsed size, and the gzip size. So it's telling you how big that piece of that chunk is. And so as you go down, you can see, wow, I'm using this library, and this is how much it's adding to this file. And there's some in here. So Material UI is the UI library I used. There's a lot of styles, there's a lot of functionality. That's going to be fairly large. Sentry for error tracking. You can go down through here. And then, of course, React down here. Where this gets interesting is if you look at one from, so this is one of our React apps at work, which I can't show source code, but I can show this. So you'll see in here under the chunks, we've got Lodash, and Lodash takes up a big piece here. And we're not using Lodash that much throughout the whole app. So there's a couple different ways to import things from the same node module, and they all work, but they don't all work the same. So for example here, I've got a little progress spinner that I'm importing from Material UI. I can also write this import as this. And put a quote in there. So this code will run exactly the same with that import like that. The difference here is that this library exports just this module from a subdirectory. And so this can get kind of clunky in a file where you're importing multiple things from the same library. You're going to, instead of having one import where it uses the named and it destructures them to where you have 10 different lines. Right now, Webpack doesn't do a great job of tree shaking. I'll come back to that in a minute because jargon on its own. And so you have to kind of help it out. And that's what this is doing right here. This is, so when you're importing a named import right here, or a named export, you're telling it, import this library and then use this piece of it. So it pulls the whole library in, and then it only uses one piece, as opposed to the default export here says use this piece of this library. So you're getting a smaller piece of whatever this node module is. So with the UI library, I played around and I was going to have some examples of changing these imports around and the difference it makes. Actually doesn't make that much of a difference because it's the UI library that I'm using. But one of the more impressive ones is with something like Lodash. Lodash, if you're not familiar with it, is a library of all kinds of great little helper functions for doing things in JavaScript. Data accessors, doing things with arrays that don't exist natively. It's a library that you will frequently use a few things from, but not all of it. And so in this example right here, you can see how much of a big piece Lodash is here. So gzip size, 37K. If I go to this after one here, which is after some of these optimizations, Lodash is down to 14K. All the same code. The only difference is changing that import from directly importing part of that node module to importing, or I'm sorry, it's changing it from importing the whole package to importing just a submodule of it. So we were able to shave, we also converted our React app at work from using a custom Webpack setup that was set up like 2 years ago before I started there to React scripts, and it shaved like 2 megs off our initial bundle, which is absolutely insane. Another part of that was because we had the whole core.js polyfill coming in instead of using something to load that as needed. So, yeah, and I heard some big gasps out there. And yeah, knocking 2 megs off of like a 4 meg load for a page, that's huge. We cut it in half. So yeah. And then the example here that I was gonna, actually I already talked about that, sorry. So back to tree shaking. So in the future, at some point, Webpack will figure out how to do all of this logically at build time for you. But it works with some libraries. It doesn't work with all of them. Essentially, you can go in and tweak Webpack configs, and you can make it work better. But honestly, the easier approach is to go in and kind of modify some of your imports to do things like this. So, and so all that optimization I did on our app at work, I probably spent maybe 2 or 3 hours going through our app and fixing up some of the imports to shave off that 2.5 megs. Yeah, so it was not a lot of time spent to make a serious impact on the bundle size for the app. Does anybody have any questions? Can you come down here so we can hear you? Gabby will run you a mic. Thanks.
So, out of curiosity, it totally makes sense that when you're only using a piece of functionality to only load that submodule. At what point do you find there's a balance between loading 5 submodules from one component or one larger module instead of just loading the entire module itself? Where's the balance between multiple import statements and just importing all of it and getting all that functionality in all at once?
Yeah. So just to repeat his question, because I know it's loud in here, it was essentially, where's the kind of breakpoint on this? Where do you start pulling things to individual imports? Where do you just import things off the module? I'm going to elaborate after this, but classic software engineering answer, it depends. So when I'm just kind of iterating on something and like trying to get something built, I'll usually just import everything right out of the module. Because some of these are really weird to actually hit the right subpath to get out of a node module. And then some of them don't even exist. So there's sometimes when a library just, you can't do it with. So really when I would start to do that is this is where this bundle analyzer really becomes useful, is if you look at this and you notice these just like huge pieces of your code that's all coming from a library, that's when I would look at whether I can split that apart and kind of shrink it down.
Okay. Thank you.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. So one thing, I know you mentioned if the library is something that's sort of off the beaten track, and so maybe you don't want to load it as part of the main bundle because only some users are going to need it. Something I've done, and I wanted to get your take on it, is it's on the main flow of the site, but they're not going to see it right away. So I want to split it out, but I still want to have it automatically load, so there's not going to be a delay from the code split, from the code splitting. If I'm
gotcha.
doing,
I get you.
so I'll still do React lazy, but then I'll just do the import, and I'll declare it, or I'll assign it to a promise, and then I'll pass the promise to React lazy, and then that will result in the code splitting still happening. So it gets split off in the bundle, but it still starts loading as soon as that main component, the main app loads.
Gotcha. Okay.
Wanted to see if you had any thoughts on that, or if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I haven't done anything as kind of intricate with that. I haven't done that much kind of custom things with React Lazy. One other thing when you're using React scripts is by default, it will load all of the chunks in the background on the initial app load once the browser is idle using a service worker. So it chunks all this out, it loads everything in that initial page load, and then once the page is done loading, then it caches all the other chunks in the background, so they load instantly.
And you have to have the service worker activated for that?
Yeah, that is part of using a service worker in the app.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Other questions?
All right. One note real quick. this came up as a conversation on Denver Devs. I had posted, hey, today I knocked 2 megs out of our main.js. And I got a whole bunch of people like, that's so cool. I don't know like where to start looking for that. So that's kind of what this talk came from. I'm going to write this up with some examples afterwards. I couldn't really find a good format for slides that worked with mainly showing code and then the visualizations in the browser. So I'm going to kind of do a write-up that I'll put up, and I'll tweet that out, and we can retweet it from the Meetup account as well. So, cool. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, we'll take a 5-minute break, and we'll get set up for our next talk and hear about some React Native dev tools. Is this on? Hey, okay. We are back, and Rahim is ready to impart some wisdom with us on some React Native dev tools. I think. We good? Yeah? Okay. All right.
Hey there, good evening, everybody. All right. First thing first, my name, yes, you have a question already? Oh. There's something, oh, hello, that's, okay. I thought you have a question already, man. All right. First thing first, introduction. Let me talk about myself a little bit. My name is Rahman, and I'm a senior software developer at Aptos Inc. I've been a software developer for 20 years. I'm a husband and a father of 2 children, a boy and a girl. I enjoy running. Today, I have ran for 843 consecutive days, 3 miles a day. I believe in healthy body and healthy mind. So I encourage everybody here to spend at least 30 minutes every day, outside or doing something active, just to achieve healthy body, and you'll be rewarded for that. And I also enjoy a glass of bourbon, so anybody who wants to get a glass of bourbon after this, I could use one. And I am Rahman everywhere, so you can find me Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everything, everywhere. And a little bit about Aptos Inc. It is a privately held company based in Atlanta, Georgia, with offices around the world. We have an office in Milan, Montreal, London. So the company, what the company does, it provides hardware and software solution for retail industry. Our bread and butter is point of sale system. And for the last 20 plus years, we've been supplying big point of sale hardware to retail industries. And 3 years ago, they spun up a new department called Aptos 1, and the goal is to make those point of sale from this big to fit into your iPhone app, to an iPhone. So that's where I come in. I work with React Native, and the challenge that we have with our app is to make sure that our app with 600,000 data can work offline. So if you go to, as an example, Michael Kors or Pier 1 or H&M, and you go there, and if they don't have an internet connection, we just want to make sure that we can still ring your sale, and everything will still run smoothly, and everything is run through an iPhone app. And we also have a challenge where we want to be able to have multiple devices within the store, and they all can talk to each other. So we back up our transaction from one device to another device, and it will, without having internet connection. So that's Aptos 1, and I really do. How many here does React Native? Wow, that's a good number of people. So how many here have dabbled with React Native a little bit here and there? Good. Okay. So this talk is not just for somebody who hasn't learn how to do, somebody who hasn't done React Native, it's actually for everybody, and I hope you get something out of this. What will we cover today? All right, so there will be a few tools that I think have helped me the last few years, and I hope that I'm going to show some demo on how it works, hopefully. And I'm going to do it fast because there's a bunch of them. So Expo, Reactotron, Storybook, DETOX, and TypeScript. So Expo and so Reactotron, Storybook, and TypeScript is not actually just for React Native. It also can be used with React. So if you're developing ReactJS, a web app, you can use those tools also. But I'm going to show some demo that I use React Native for. So Expo, it's a free and open source toolchain to build React Native apps. So let's jump straight to demo. Okay. Now let me see if I can do this easily. Okay. I can't find my mouse. All right, I think it's going left. That's what threw me off. First thing first, let me change my okay. Let me do that again. It's really hard. I guess I can see you from there too. Okay, can everybody see this? Oh. All right, let's do that again. So this app is pretty simple. We have a progress meter. We have two buttons, up and down, and we have a progress meter. One is a chart, and one is a bar. And sorry, guys, it's really hard for me to figure out where my mouse is. So the idea is to press a button, up and down. Pretty simple, right? So, and if you look at the code, it's pretty straightforward. Damn, if I can even see this. Okay. So you have your render method just like you would on ReactJS application. And you return, instead of a div, you have a view. Yeah? And then you have a button, you have a progress bar. Basically, pretty straightforward. And same state management, state management. And yeah, that's, but what's cool about this is with Expo, you can change, let's see, 150 progress by, and oops. So I guess you can't see that very well, but I just changed the size, but it's actually has gotten bigger. Let's just change something big, something slightly bigger. Maybe even 300. And you can see that has gotten bigger. But what's cool about about this is you can actually also run this on your web. Oop. Okay, can you guys pause for a second? I actually need to do mirror mode because this is really hard to do. Hey, how do I change back to mirror mode?
Display is the middle tab on display.
I don't see that anymore. Display Oh, yeah, I should have. Arrangement, mirror display. All right. Whoa, that was really hard. Okay. Yeah. Okay, who's still with me? All right. But what's cool about this is with Expo, and you can also do your development on the web. And this is a normal web UI. And instead of app.js, I'm going to change this to app.tsx. And I'm actually going to go and copy this whole thing in here. And I'm actually going to add React native progress. I believe it's version 3.5.0. Save. Okay, and now I can actually run this, and I can send this to my device. And I have a simulator running. Obviously, you guys can see that. And then I'm just going to go to Expo Home. Project. And that's my device ID, which is EB20A5B7. And I'm going to just click Save. So now it will start appearing on my device, Trembling Bacon right there. So I can develop something on web and actually use on snack.expo.io and actually have it running on my simulator or on my phone. So what's cool about Expo is you don't have to develop on Xcode or on any platform on your IDE. You can develop anywhere you want, and you don't even have to know Xcode. You don't have to know iOS. You don't even have to know Android. So all you need to do is just write your code in JavaScript, okay? And Expo will help you with the rest. So going back to that, I mean, we can change more by saying I want to add text. Oops. Right here, hello world. And so now you can see that even though I made that change on Snack, it actually appears on my simulator. So and you can share this with anybody. I mean, you can change this, and you can share this with anybody around the world, pretty much. If they want to know what you're doing, if you have an interview and they want to see what you're doing, this is one way to do that. So that's Expo and Snack. So why do we use Expo? It's easy for beginners. Oh, sorry. Let me just get out of this. So it's easy for beginner. It doesn't require macOS. Like I said, it doesn't require macOS. And even after you've created an iOS app or Android app, and if you made any changes on JavaScript, any JavaScript changes, you can send your update over the air. So that's cool because now you don't have to go through all the App Store process or Google Play process where you actually have to submit your app for review. If you change something from Hello World to Hello Colorado, then all you have to do is just push those changes directly to your app users. Why not use Expo? The IPA and the APKs generated from using Expo is going to be a little bit larger because the Expo SDK itself contains everything known that you saw there. I mean, it has an AR kit. It has, I mean, it's when you use when you create React Native app without Expo, you have the option of choosing what modules you want to include into your app. So your app tends to be smaller, but with Expo, you don't have that choice. And it's also it doesn't have the ability to add other native modules without detaching. So that means if there is a native module that you need to use, and it's not available in Expo, you actually have to eject from Expo. And it is also slightly behind React Native. So as an example, the latest Expo version 32 is actually still using React Native 57.1, where React Native is now version 58. So, all right, so Reactotron is a pretty cool debugging tool that you can use. Let me just fire up the demo. Demo. Okay. So hopefully this will run right away. Oh, actually, let's just do this again. Okay. So, and there's an app for Reactotron, and I'll show it to you guys right here. So this is not a debugging tool. You can also use a standard React Native debugger. I mean, we've seen this before with ReactJS. It's not easy to use sometimes, and it's not very intuitive. So the good folks at Infinite Red has developed Reactotron, which you can actually use with your ReactJS app or React Native. So here I want to show you guys the use on this with React Native. So as you can see, as soon as I refresh that app, it shows that it's connecting, and I'm actually going to download a file, and it'll start downloading, and using the same progress meter before, and now it's actually downloading a file somewhere, and then it's just updating it. So one of the cool a feature of Reactotron is benchmarking, where you can see, as soon as this, I mean, I should have looked for a smaller file, but you can see that now, because I put a benchmark start and benchmark stop, you can actually figure out where a bottleneck in your app, if there's one. So that's what I just showed, and it says downloading benchmark is around 26 seconds, and that's something that you can actually put all over your code just to see how long does it take to do this and that. So that's one feature that you can see from with Reactotron. And you also have the ability to look at API responses. I know with ReactJS you get the network and you can see all the API responses. But with React Native, using a normal debugger tool, you don't really get to see that unless you have a Charles proxy. So here you get to see all the responses, the request, and that just to give you a little bit more depth of how to debug your application. Now, it's also very useful with detecting redux. So I'm going to actually check out demo, nope. Oh, yep. Okay. Bear with me, guys. So do you guys have any questions so far? Expo, Reactotron? You do have to add that to your code. I mean, you have to add Reactotron, you have to install Reactotron, and you have to add Reactotron config to your code. And then once you have that, it's only a few lines of codes. I should have showed the code, but I forgot about it. Sorry about that. But then all you have to do is just put a benchmark start and benchmark stop. And you can put multiple steps, so you can actually figure out where are all the time it takes between one step, between each steps.
But you have to go put that into the code yourself. It doesn't happen automatically.
Correct, yes. You do have to put that into your code. Yeah. Okay, so this is Reactotron. Let's just run that on a simulator. So let's take a look at our simulator now. Sometimes I find Expo and simulator doesn't connect very well, so all you have to do is just run start again, kill your X simulator, and then start over. Shouldn't take long. Yeah, clean this up. Even my Reactotron is crapping on me. Okay. All right. So instead of using straight code, let's just so before. Before I was using a function within this component itself, a method within this component itself. Now I'm actually using Redux to update my progress. So every time I click on the up and down button instead of using inline method, I'm actually using Redux action, and it's calling progress update, and we'll see what happens. So let's fire up Reactotron also, and you click up, and you can see there's an action that happens here, and you can see what I just sent, progress update 0.5. So that's a Redux, and then if you click down, and you can see what happened there as well. Now, what's cool about this is actually you can subscribe to. I only have one object in here, but if you have multiple objects, multiple Redux objects, I mean, it's really hard to follow all the things that are happening in your app. So as an example, you can actually add, is it progress? Actually, it's a status. Subscribe. Oh, I don't think this is it. Let me see that code again. Okay, so you can see my reducer. The value right now is 0.150002, but if I continue doing this pressing up, you can see that a subscription, and you can see the state, and it's showing where the value of my progress right now. Okay. So it also works with MOBEX, so not just Redux and Redux Saga. So that's something to think about. And while I have you here, so that's the demo for Reactotron, and I saw this tweet yesterday, and about to Infinite Red, and it was talking about a YouTube talk that you guys can, I actually have a link for that talk, and it's at Chain React 2018, Debugging and Beyond with Reactotron by Darren Wilson. He'll show you all the cool features that you can get from Reactotron, not just Redux, not just benchmarking, but snapshots and all cool stuff. So I encourage you, I mean, I think Sam has access to this slide. I can actually post it on Meetup comments later. You guys all have access to this, to all this talk. Next is Storybook. Storybook, I mean, how many of you have seen Storybook? Have used Storybook, created Storybook? So did you guys use Storybook for React Native? Formidable Labs, guys? No? Okay, so you can actually, with a version 4.0, you can have it inline on your React Native. So as an example, I mean, the button that you saw earlier, you can see it here, download button, right? Oops. Maybe I shouldn't press that. Okay, so anyway, I'm not going to press that. And then you can also have add-ons where you can actually now say, instead of download, I want to say upload, right? So now you can see what it looks like. I mean, obviously, this is just simple. But you can also have to see the progress by. navigator, progress pie, and you can see all the components that you can use, the props that you can use, and you can change the color. Voila. So pretty cool, storybook. So what's cool about storybook? I mean, what's the point of all this? So what I like about storybook is it provides visual style guide for every developer. And that way, before you even put it anywhere, you can see it in front of you. Oh, this is what it's going to look like, and you can actually do some development on it, and then to change it and see it on the app itself. Okay, and it also encourages you to develop a UI component from common code. I mean, I've seen people developing 800 lines of code, and all the UI components are repetitive, duplicated, and this is a good way to start extracting those duplication of code and create a UI component, and then actually have stories to display, just like what I just showed you guys. You can test render different cases. Like I said, we just changed the color. We made a bigger pie chart. It also helped new developers. You can actually launch a web app also with React Native version of Storybook. So that way you can have, I mean, React Native, you don't really get to see much here. Even if you did, you can't really copy the code, cut and paste. And then, I mean, if you look at the web app version of Storybook, you can use a bunch of add-ons where it will spew out the actual code for you to cut and paste, just to make your life easier. So if you have a button and you want that exact color, and it will give you the code and you copy and paste it. So it will help new developers to know, oh, I need to create a button. Do I need to create a button? How do I create a button? And here, there's a button for him or new developer to use that. Oops. There you go. And there's add-ons for your storybook, like I can't pronounce that. Story shot and actions. I also have a video here. Learning React Native as Junior Engineer by Erin Fox. It's also Chain React 2018. She's a junior developer at MLS, and she had never done React Native when she first started with MLS, and they have a very small team, and this is one way for her to hit the ground running, and Storybook proved to have helped her. Watch the video. I encourage you guys to watch the video. All right, so DETOX. This might be a little tricky. Let me just check out on demo. So by the way, all these will be available for you guys on GitHub. Take it, download it, clone it, and play around with it. How many of you have used DETOX? You don't need me, do you? All right, let's do this. What do you think of DETOX? What do you think of DETOX? When it works, it's great. Okay. That's actually true for everything. Oh, I think I need to install it first. Let's just run it. See what happens. So okay. So I do need to. Any questions so far? Yeah. All the time. All the time, because your app is going to get bigger and bigger, and you just happen to want to use. Okay, the question is, have you ever used Expo and have to eject from Expo, right? Because of there's components that you can't use, or native modules that you can't use all the time. Expo is pretty limited because they want to make it easy for you, so they have to compile all those native module into Expo. So they have to pick and choose what they think is worth to be included into Expo. So most of the time, it's impossible to be able to develop an app, a big app, and get away with just using Expo. It's possible. I mean, you can make a tic-tac-toe app, maybe. Tetris app. There's Tetris app on Expo Snack that you can download and just have that. Okay. Any other question? No? Oh. Yes, DETOX is React Native only. Yeah, it has support for Android, but Android is pretty flaky, right? Do you guys still using DETOX? Okay, what are you guys shifting towards? Appium, yeah, good. So another thing about DETOX is you can't really use it on device. So you are limited to simulators, which will cover most of it. But if you want to take pictures or you want to try picture taking or whatsoever, it's not gonna work. All right, let's see. Okay, let's hope this works. So what happened is it will launch a simulator for me as soon as I did that, and so using the same code that we had before, same application, the up and down button with the progress and pie chart. Takes a while. Sorry about that, guys. But this will let me test this app without actually having to click any button, and let DETOX do all the work, I hope. Now. Okay, so you just press up, button, down. So, and you can see the test passed, and it says see the main screen, should tap the button and get 5%, should tap the button button again and get 10%, should tap the button and get 5%. So that's the test that I wrote using the same code. So that's DETOX. It's actually developed by Wix Engineering. Have you guys heard of Wix? Yeah, they're a pretty cool company. They develop a lot of open source projects, and DETOX is one of them. Okay, I actually have a demo here that I use in my project, and so you can see, I mean, something like this. I mean, it's a lot of work for our QA to do, so it's a lot easier for them to, for DETOX to actually type it for you. And so yeah, you can actually select retail store. There's a select, it's a select field, so it will scroll through all the choices and enter terminal number and even finish a transaction. But this one is only for that part. So why use DETOX? You can actually continuously test mobile apps while you're developing it, and then just want to make sure that you're not breaking anything. That's pretty cool. You can also run this on Circle CI. It's pretty flaky, so your mileage may vary. Help QA from manually testing a lot of stuff. I mean, you can take 90% of their work. Also, another video from Chain React 2018. A year in building it, testing with one of the Wix engineer. So, honorable mention is TypeScript. I'm not gonna go into in depth on TypeScript. It's a powerful tool. It's a good tool to have, especially when you have large application, to make sure that your especially in a large for large application and large development team. And I encourage you guys to use TypeScript in your application. And also another video from Chain React 2018, which is how TypeScript ruined my life. So, and I've been talking about it, so I might as well just tell you guys about it. Chain React 2018, this year is the third running of Chain React. It's in Portland, and it's the biggest React Native conference in the United States. I highly encourage it. I find a lot, as you can see, I've included so many videos of from last year's, and I've been going almost to both of them, and had a lot of fun. And there's talk videos here. You can actually take a look at all the videos from last year, and it's in I have it linked, and also photos from last year. And let me see if I have, and of course, the whiskey library in. All right, that's a whiskey library in Portland, and that's a bunch of React Native developers. I managed to rally enough people to go with me every year, so I'm going to do it again this year. So I hope you guys can join me. And any other questions? Any question? All right. All right. Well, thank you so much. Hope you guys had something.
All right. Thank you again. I think that concludes our evening. Again, we're always looking for new speakers. If you've given talks before, if you've never given a talk, definitely let us know. We'd be interested in having you speak with us. I think we've got lightning talks coming in the next few months, so keep an eye out for that. And as we mentioned earlier this evening, we're also always looking for sponsors for the meetup. Feel free to visit our Open Collective page, and thank you all for coming out this evening, and we'll hope to see you again next month.